Imagine a classroom, the air thick with the scent of whiteboard markers and teenage ambition. It's a place for learning, for futures being built one lesson at a time. But on this day, in a seemingly ordinary town, that future would be shattered by a single, unthinkable act. This is the story of a student who crossed a line so permanent, so dark, that it would shock a community to its core. She sat in those very desks, listened to those very lessons, and then she decided to kill her teacher. And what's even more chilling, she truly believed, with every fiber of her being, that she could get away with it. The bell had rung, the halls had emptied, but one student stayed behind. Her name was Emma, a 16-year-old with a reputation for being quiet, almost invisible. Her teacher, Mrs. Brenda Johnson, was a veteran educator with 20 years of experience, known for her tough love and her dedication to her students. She was the kind of teacher who would stay late to help someone struggling, the kind who remembered your birthday. On the surface, their relationship was unremarkable, but beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. Emma wasn't just a quiet girl. She was a pressure cooker of resentment. It started with a failing grade, a D, on a midterm paper that Emma felt was unjust. Then came the meetings, the tense conversations with her parents, the threat of not getting into her first-choice college. In Emma's mind, Mrs. Johnson wasn't just a teacher giving a grade. She was a gatekeeper, deliberately blocking her path, ruining her life. The rational world saw a minor academic setback. Emma's world saw a catastrophic injustice that demanded a solution. And her solution was as final as it gets. The plan formed not in a burst of rage, but in cold, calculated silence. She researched, not for her classes, but for something far more sinister. She noted the patterns of the school janitor, the blind spots of the security cameras in the science wing, the specific time when Mrs. Johnson was truly alone in her classroom, grading papers. She didn't see a human being anymore. She saw a problem to be eliminated. She convinced herself it was the only way. The day of the murder was a Tuesday. It felt like any other day. Students laughed in the hallways, lockers slammed shut. The mundane rhythm of high school life played on. After her last period, Emma told her friends she'd forgotten a book. It was a simple, believable lie. She walked back to Mrs. Johnson's classroom, her heart pounding, not with fear, but with a terrifying sense of purpose. The door was slightly ajar. She pushed it open. Mrs. Johnson looked up from her desk, her reading glasses perched on her nose. "Emma, did you forget something?" she asked, a gentle smile on her face. Those were her last words. What happened next was swift and brutal. Emma had brought a weapon from the chemistry lab, something heavy and blunt. The attack was ferocious, born of that pent-up, twisted fury. And just like that, a life of dedication and care was extinguished in a room that was meant to be a sanctuary of learning. The classroom, once a place of potential, was now a crime scene. And then the most bizarre chapter began. Emma didn't run. She didn't panic. She calmly walked out of the school, went home, and sat down to dinner with her family. She asked about her dad's day. She joked with her younger brother. She was playing a part, and in her mind, she was playing it perfectly. When the police arrived at the school the next morning, the scene was one of utter confusion and horror. A beloved teacher murdered in her own classroom. There were no signs of a forced entry, no stolen items. It pointed to someone she knew, someone she trusted. The investigation zeroed in on the school community. And that's when detectives first interviewed Emma. She was the picture of innocence. She expressed shock. She cried on cue. She said she admired Mrs. Johnson. She even offered a theory, suggesting it must have been an intruder. She was so convincing, so calm, that she was barely a blip on their radar. But the evidence, as it always does, began to whisper the truth. A security camera from a nearby business, just out of view of the school's main entrance, captured a figure matching Emma's description leaving the school grounds at the exact time of the murder, from a side exit that was rarely used. There was a tiny, almost invisible speck of blood on the strap of her backpack, missed in her hasty cleanup. A classmate came forward, recalling a strange, offhand comment Emma had made weeks before about how some people just deserve what they get. The puzzle pieces were there, scattered and faint, but they were there. The police called her in for a second interview. This time, the tone was different. The questions were sharper, more specific. They presented the circumstantial evidence, piece by piece, watching her carefully. And that's when the facade began to crack. The calm, collected mask started to slip. She became defensive. Her story had tiny inconsistencies. She couldn't explain why she was seen near the science wing after school. She couldn't account for that 20-minute gap in her timeline. And then, the detective played his final card. He leaned forward and said, "Emma, we know you did it. The question is, why? Help us understand." It was a simple, direct statement, but it shattered the fragile reality she had built. The confession didn't come as a dramatic shout, but as a quiet, chilling admission. She was going to ruin everything, Emma whispered, her eyes empty. I had to stop her. There was no remorse, only a cold justification. The trial was a media circus. The image of a sweet, honor roll student juxtaposed with the gruesome details of the crime captivated and horrified the nation. She was tried as an adult and found guilty of first-degree murder. The sentence was life in prison, a future traded for a moment of unforgivable violence. The classroom where Mrs. Johnson taught was permanently reassigned, a silent, painful reminder of what happened there. A life of service ended too soon, and a young life thrown away, all because of a delusion, a terrifying belief that one could commit the ultimate sin and simply walk away. It's a stark reminder that the most dangerous monsters aren't always the ones hiding in the shadows. Sometimes they're sitting in the front row, taking notes. Tell me where you're watching the Criminal Codex from. Drop your city in the comments. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Criminal Codex for more true crime stories. See you in the next one, where the truth waits to be uncovered.